Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good wherever time zone you are listening in from. Welcome to the Tattooed Teacher podcast. On today's episode, I've got the amazing Phil Alcock sitting here with me. A little bit about Phil. He has been a digital technology specialist up in the Northern Territory in Darwin, which I'm sure was probably got some stories from there. Classroom teacher and STEM leader at San Roberto International School. He is now the founder of AI X PBL. He's a STEAM curriculum consultant with iCamp. He's an AI X Ed developer at Kyber. He's an instructional learning designer with AI, and he's pioneering AI enhanced project-based learning. So, Phil, welcome to the Tattooed Teacher podcast.
Thanks, Phil. Phil and Phil's finally happened. I'm happy. Been waiting for this moment, so it's great.
Mate, the two Aussies, one on the Gold Coast, one in Mexico. How good is that?
That's it. Traveling, living a good life in the sun,
Oh, mate, you can't beat it. Yeah, it's a tough winter this winter. I think it happened last week, so.
I hear it in Melbourne, trust me. I see the reports from Melbourne and I think, all right, I might complain about it getting a little bit hot and a bit humid sometimes, but then I see some of those weather and I think, okay, this is pretty good. So I've got to stop complaining.
Absolutely. So you've done all these things. You've worked in the Northern Territory. You've worked overseas. You've ended up in Mexico. How did that all happen?
Get up one day and decide, be the crazy guy that has an idea. And, I'm just so stubborn, I think, that I just have an idea and I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm going to go overseas. And people are like, all right, Phil. And, and I just kept going with it. And that was it. I think I just had amazing opportunities to do some really interesting jobs and go and see, work at a PBL school in Mexico and have a great opportunity as a digital specialist and write digital literacy curriculum and things in Northern Territory. So I just kind of went where there was a different opportunity. I wanted to see, I kind of felt that I had PBL, I think I've got it. I think I got it worked out. Now let's see if it can be replicated in another state or another country even. And turns out it can, so that's good. But yeah, I like to travel. I like to just get out of my skin, I think when I start feeling comfortable and things are almost like going successfully, I think I put myself back into a challenge again just to keep going. But I think it's, there's a lot of personal learning and things like that I feel that's what's led me to do this, getting out and just seeing myself in a different perspective and trying to understand society. And, I felt like if I want to be a good sustainability teacher, I can't just be sitting there in a nice apartment in St Kilda and talk to the world about sustainability. It's like, all right, let's do a bit of traveling and let's see how it is and let's get to learn how schools are in Mexico and those kind of things. So I don't think there's any bit of literature or media or anything that you can read that is the same as experiencing it. And especially in Mexico, it's a complex place, and we see the worst of it in the news, and especially, something happens to an Australian and everyone's talking to me on Facebook and everywhere else. And it's pretty sad because it just misses out on so many of the great things in the country that get overshadowed by some of the bad things. And, it does make me think of sustainability and what role this is going to play in the world in the years to come, because we definitely need some kind of answers. And I'm willing to put myself in this situation to understand more about the world, if that makes sense. And I've always been someone that loves to travel and learn about these experiences.
Mate, that sounds awesome. That you to keep learning, you're willing to put yourself in uncomfortable positions. I mean, whenever we learn something and we really want that deep learning, it's hard. It's hard. So, and you're putting yourself in definitely environments that would be challenging to someone who born and raised in such a lucky country as Australia. So, all power to you. So it's fantastic, and I guess that just shows the lifelong learner that you are. That you're willing to take a risk, to challenge yourself, and take that chance of actually failing.
Yeah.
So, and mate, by the looks of it, there's probably been some tough days, but it looks like overall you're doing very well. So, mate, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's a method to the madness in a way. It's I think sometimes that there's that idea of lifelong learner and even learning about yourself. And I don't think everyone needs to get up and go for a crazy trip to the other side of the world to learn about themselves. But that was one of my passions. I wanted to come to this side of the world, and it was one of my bucket lists to understand more about America and South America and Central America, and just to really experience it. And yeah, I think that's one thing that I really do like, to not just learn about the experience, learn about myself, but also learn about, my limits and those kind of things. It does keep me resilient, because I constantly get inspired by people around me in my travels. And, I think to keep that idea of wanting to learn, but not only that, is just, stretch yourself a little. What would you do if you weren't afraid? That kind of um, idea, and it's worked out really well. Obviously, AIs came along, and maybe I've just had that similar approach. I just kind of go, it's difficult, or it's this, or it's that, and people say this and people say that. Well, I want to get in there and work it out for myself, and get my own understanding of what's going on in this weird world that we live in now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very there's a lot of stuff happening in the world in with technology, with AI, and I'm sure we're going to delve into a lot of that. So living in Mexico, like being I've not travelled there, but the things that I've seen, not necessarily a good thing. But then I've heard some amazing stories. I think it was John Kelly, who's in Mexico as well. Um, he was just saying how beautiful a country it is and how beautiful the people are. And once you move away from sort of the border towns along the US border, it's a completely different country. Is that what you found?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends where you go, I guess. I mean, it's like lots of places, but um, every state in Mexico has its own culture, I guess. In the south, it's different to people in the north. I found the people in Monterrey to be very like serious and very kind of like they have this funny thing against foreigners, and it's very cold, and it's a really interesting place. But by comparison, you go to the south and people are quite open and want to get to know you. If I knew Spanish a little bit more, I'd probably have a lot more friends, but I try my best. But yeah, I think ultimately, it's such a hard, complex thing, because there's definitely a lot of bad things that happen here. And there's a lot of, challenging situations in different parts. And, you know, when you go and I'm married. Well, people may not know that I'm married to a Mexican, and she takes me around to places, and if I was walking around in some of the places in Acapulco without her, could be a lot of trouble. But with a local, and people know me around the place and things like that, it's a bit different. Um, it's a bit sad. In some places are a bit kind of like, they call them hot, or they call them risky, I guess that's the word they use it. And some areas are really, really bad, and it's very poor. If you try and just start to think about how much fuel costs and how much people earn, and how much people might earn in a shop compared to in Australia and things like that. There's a lot of people living really, really with low income, and I guess in the end they get desperate and they join different things, and you might just be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and get in a bad situation. But for most of my experiences, I never want to say it's safe, and I never want to say that I can feel like I do in Australia, because I don't. But I do want to say that I can go to my local restaurants and cafes and things, and I can sit down and I feel comfortable. I don't feel risky. I meet really nice people everywhere I go. I go to markets. Lots of people know me as El Guero in the markets and wave to me and say hello and things. And I don't know if I would have that kind of um, the same level of that experience in Australia. So, I guess when people do kind of know you, and it's a very different kind of culture. People do appreciate things a lot differently and appreciate the moment a little bit more as well, I find. So, for that reason, I feel, you go to a Mexican party where there's dancing and mariachis and amazing food, and you kind of go, this is where I want to be.
Oh,
Um,
that's all.
so there's so many things, the Mexican wrestling's another one which I've really started to get into, and I love it, and it's sort of like this, they have these, there was something even in America that they have these wrestlers, they got kicked out because they had clown mask and things like that, because America was going through shooters with masks and clowns, so they wouldn't allow them to be wrestlers. And Mexico's like, we'll take you, come over here, and it's a little bit like that. It's like, it's a bit rough around the edges. We don't, and a lot of that Mexican culture is kind of like, we'll take you how you are. And I kind of like that. I do have a great experience, and I've made great friends here. And even if we can't speak the language, we kind of just get along. And, I appreciate the people for what they've taught me, and also for their resilience and the way they just kind of like, they celebrate life, they celebrate death. They're not, definitely get affected by it, but it's a different attitude to it. And then they have the Day of the Dead and all these different festivals where they really honor the dead. And, we don't do that in our Western worlds, that, sometimes people can be really cut up about people dying, and take it really badly, and it just affects them for the rest of their life. And, when you go to a street parade and you see all these people holding up signs of all the people that have passed away, and they're not angry. Like, of course they're upset, and of course they're down, but there's that sense of like, we're celebrating the life of this person, and we want to be there for this person. We're going to go to their grave for every birthday. We're going to really celebrate them and talk about them, and keep them alive in our stories and things. And there's so many of these lessons that you appreciate that Mexico has, and the history and the challenges and things like that. And yet, I have such a warmth for most places that I go, and there's definitely not everywhere, and I definitely don't want to jinx myself, but I really do appreciate the culture here in a lot of ways. And of course, well, my wife is a professional dancer, and she knows all the history of Mexico and things, so she's often filling me into a lot of events and how things happen and why they happen. And just that rich culture, I feel that as an Australian, we don't have it. We might have it through English family or Scottish family or something, and it's over there, and it's kind of like, well, we don't really know, but here they've got it, and they've got such an interesting culture with the Aztecs and the pyramids, and, even their food and things like that, that's protected, by UNICEF. And it's got so many layers to it, Mexico. And that's what I love, when you see them doing their dancing and playing music and having a good time. It's like, you forget about all the worries in life, and Mexicans have a great way of doing that, that moment vibe. It's like, hey, we don't have a lot, but we're going to celebrate what we have. And if our friends don't have something, we're going to invite them in, and they can drink with us or eat with us or whatever it's going to be. I like that culture. I think Australian culture, we do have a great culture, and, we can be quite like that, but we can be very like reserved and judgy and things like that. And I do, appreciate that side of Mexican culture.
That's yeah. It sounds very similar to some stories I've had from people who have travelled to other less developed or poorer, financially poorer nations. I'm going to say financially poorer, but they have a richness that some of the most wealthy countries just don't have. So, sounds like if I ever get a chance to visit, I'll be coming your way.
Yeah, nice. You're welcome anytime, Phil.
Now, on that, like talking about, that they're very very poor parts of the country. How does that? And we're talking about here in Australia and the United Kingdom and America and some of the more wealthy nations. We've got the devices, we've got this, we've got that, we've got all the bells and whistles. Yet you're in Mexico and you're using AI and you're bringing it into schools. It seems like there's a bit of a disconnect, or am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. Like there's not a lot of people that would be able to have, Phil Alcock's gaming laptop and stable internet. I'm about to get Starlink soon as well. And, I can live a certain way because I've got the money, or I'm able to fund, back when ChatGPT costs money and whatever else, there's a bit of a cost and a bit of a setup to get these things. Um, when you have a choice of that or medical or other big things, you do put yourself in a situation where you're, I guess, looking at what's more important. And there's schools here that don't even have air conditioning, and they're hot, and they're in places that don't get the breeze, and sometimes their electricity might go out and things. I don't know 100% about every type of school, but I certainly know that if they had internet, if they had those things in the school, things would change. It's something that I think about a lot, and with what I do with project-based learning and with AI, that I think I've always taken that kind of thing to think about, would this benefit a rural school in Mexico? And, it does keep ringing that question of sustainability. All right, let's say there's a kid out in the countryside, and, even for them to get into a busier spot where the infrastructure might be better, might be a risky experience and things like that. How do we get that kid who's doing really well? Maybe they've picked up AI, or maybe they have access to it in some form. How do they then take those skills and then catch a bus? How do we even get the infrastructure to look after people that are, really struggling, and, don't so many people don't even have laptops, even my wife's friends and things like that. It was funny. Well, not funny, but I was just talking to some of them, and saying, oh, I would love for you to do a bit of work with me, and, maybe we can work something out. I can teach you how to make these project-based learning packs, blah, blah, blah. Just bring your laptop. I just kind of talk like that. And they're like, I don't have a laptop, but there's someone in my family that has one, and we have to borrow it. And, there's a bit of a system involved to go, well, my cousin's using it now because they need it for university and those kind of things. And maybe we have to go to another person's house to use the internet. So there's generally a lot of challenges, with what I can see. I feel that it's hard to say, yes, those kids are going to ever, grow up and have the chance to use AI or computers and do the things that I can do, but maybe they can get some of the packs that I can do that might be a bit more engaging, or maybe they can have a space where they can, work out and do some of these offline packs and things like that. The bigger challenge that what we have in so many places is internet connection, and um, you know, the ability to use, like, even to bring a laptop to a school in some of these areas, they're risky, and you've got too much of a chance getting robbed for that laptop, so you don't bring the laptop. And it puts these schools in these situations, that they might not even have functional good things in the town. Why would you just want to then spend $100,000 and put amazing electricity and things? So there's a lot of issues that happen, is what I see. And that's why it does constantly make me think about, let's really got to think about sustainability in these issues. Maybe if we do have a project-based learning system in other countries, maybe we then can start looking at some of these challenges happening out here, investigate them in different levels, and find out the why, or find out the how can we help them, or, those kind of things. Is it going to help a kid in Mexico that can't afford a computer to create, these incredible online courses for them that they can never access? So then how do you train them, and what can AI be used for good, and those kind of things? So there's so many micro problems, but I see them all as projects. Ultimately there's a lot of little projects. Can we get these? What can we do? Can we get these people? Can we do this? Maybe AI is going to then help with connecting some of these challenges that people face around the world in poverty and in other various different situations. How can we make sure that they have, are they getting a good education now? What are they learning now? And then can we look at that, and can we improve that in some way that they can learn more effectively. I feel that AI will have a big flow-on effect, because if we can then find great ways to teach, if I know I can teach coding to pretty much an entire elementary school without using a computer, and still teach them those fundamentals through storytelling and all these things that I'm working out with AI. So maybe there's just other approaches that we have to take when we're looking at some of these challenges, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves and be like, not everyone's going to even have a computer, and not everyone's just going to just use ChatGPT and the world will work itself out. No, well, now we always got to think of those people that can't afford a computer, or those people who are having, all sorts of challenges. I could speak for hours about some of the stories and things that I know, but ultimately I feel that what what we can do, we work together well and we create a better education system. And maybe that is project learning, maybe that is more immersive, maybe that's not just that book that teaches everything, that maybe we need to work out how we can be adaptive in learning, and then think about how will that affect people that don't have a computer. It's all good that we have fancy AI tools on a computer for us, and we're lucky we can use it, and we can get up to skill. And I have all this opportunity to do this now. I do a bit of work on the side and I can do all of that, but I'm always thinking, this is why we have to always talk about sustainability. This is why we need to think about the sustainable development goals. And this is why, like, for me, that's why I'm so passionate about project-based learning, because I think it's the real thing. It's like we can get out there, and we don't have to go out to every community and solve their problems by giving them computers. We can then think about, well, can we come up with global solutions that will affect all communities? Can we start to see, community hubs, or can we start to see places where people can come and study and work with AI, or work with whatever they want to work with, become engineers, or, those kind of things. I feel that we have to always think about sustainability with whatever we do. And if we're trying to make this most fancy system and got all the buttons and whistles and whatever else, and I've definitely had those opportunities on LinkedIn. People want me to collaborate with these things, but I feel that I'm getting too far away from the ground. I'm getting too far away from sustainability. I don't want to be part of creating the most flashiest system in the world if I know that most of the world can't use it. Then I'm just going to serve a really small bunch of people. But if I can get my project learning and those kind of things really structured well, and then really connect. I've just done a whole bunch of summer camp STEM stuff for kids having the fun of their life, but they're walking away learning sustainability. They're learning about Minecraft and having fun and getting involved into underwater worlds and doing virtual tours and all that cool stuff. But ultimately, they're learning key things about sustainability and the reefs and the issues that we're having around the world. Australia, we have enough with environmental, Great Barrier Reef and those kind of things. And a huge amount of environmental problems in the world, and plastic, and you name it. There's so many little things, but that's where I feel that the projects will be so effective. Because if you do a project in your school and that might lead to, oh, we use too much plastic, or we use styrofoam, or those kind of things, and maybe the community can come together and challenge some of those ideals of plastic bags and all those kind of things that just wasted so much that we didn't really need. And then that's where project-based learning and AI it sort of flows on, if that makes sense. If we can then create a system where we are solving real problems instead of writing essays that have nothing to do with anything. Here's a problem that happened in 2002. Let's analyze it and try and do a debate about it. It's like, that's great. Like, cool. We all need those things, but why don't we just analyze the current issue and try and solve that, or try and just have a discussion about that? You don't even hear the word sustainability on LinkedIn. I almost, like, my eyes, someone posted something the other day about it and I was like, whoa, that's great to see. Why are we talking about this enough? Like, this is what AI should be doing. Like, if we can use AI to help us solve issues, whether it's working with AI, whether it's creating better learning materials that attach to community environmental issues, whatever it might be, I think that's where the power of AI can flow on and then eventually affect a lot of these people that are struggling. But it's something I think about a lot, and I think it drives me so much, Phil. And and it keeps me grounded in this. I don't get too flashy and want to do a million things. I keep thinking, well, what's going to help the teachers? That's going to eventually help those kids out in those areas of all around the world in poverty.
That's brilliant. There's the driver there, and it's coming through so strong. Your passion's coming through so strong, is to make the world, your world, someone else's world, a better place. To look after it. You know, you're right with I teach design, and so one of my projects is based on sustainability, and we look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and some of the kids are like, what do you mean why are they doing this? And even getting these students to understand that we've got to look at the longevity of the planet, of what we're using, to try and make this place, this world, this beautiful world that we live in, better. So
Yeah.
you seem to just be keeping that right in the focus area for what you're doing. So that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Now,
Thanks.
you've mentioned PBL a lot. Now, I know I have an understanding of PBL. I've seen it done very poorly. You seem to be building like a really good structure that works. But for those who don't know, what is PBL? What is project or project-based learning?
Yeah, that's the ultimate question. And I feel like the more that people take it on, it was interesting. I went to Dan Jones. He's just released. Here's a nice plug for the audience. Modern PBL. Go and buy it today. But it was great. What I loved about it was, it was pretty basic for me to just collaborate with Dan and do my little chapter on AI and what I think of PBL's going and all that kind of stuff. But what I love was hearing Dan just talk about it, and I was like, the way he explains is different than me. But is that right? Is that wrong? Like I don't know. I mean, now it's kind of got this weird sense now with PBL that you have the traditionalists or I don't even know, that doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean? People that have kind of been like early days of PBL, it's a certain way, it's got to be like this, you got to have this for gold, you got to have this and things like that. And I think that's amazing. I think that's the ultimate goal. And if I didn't have a gold standard, I don't know if I would be at the point that I would be at with PBL. But in a lot of ways, I feel like most of what I've picked up in PBL has been in my own experiments, have been my own way. And essentially, I think it's just think of it in the really basic way. If you come into class and say, I mean, this will go down better in Australia, I'm sure. We're going to do a whole project this term. We're not going to do any work. We're just going to focus on the Cricket World Cup. In some places that would be going down well. In other places, they'd be looking at you going, what? Cricket? What's that? And, and for that reason, like, I know I could get everyone in my classroom loving cricket because I'm passionate about it. And I would be able to tell every detail, everything. Maybe not every stat, but you know what I mean? Like every little, I love it. I could watch test match cricket and never move. And for me,
Yeah.
that's what I think PBL is. It's a passion. It's something that you're passionate about, as any way you want to say it. It's got to have this, it's got to have that, it's blah, blah, blah. Like at the end of the day, if I'm sitting there and I say, you know what, we're going to learn all about cricket this term, that's a project. And I like to think of PBL as a big, huge mega project. There's like small projects that you can do, and that's fine. But I think if you think of a real good PBL, it's the whole term. It's all hands in. It's like, this is it. We're going to do everything. In maths, we're going to learn about statistics. We're going to learn about chance. We're going to learn about what does all this stuff mean, the wind predictor and all that kind of stuff. In science, we're going to learn about the weather and how it affects the ball, or, like there's so many things that I can already start rattling off, and I could probably do a term of work just by going my own connections. With AI, you can do even more than that. You can be like, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, and it'll go and come out with ideas and plans and things like that. So you can persuade, is baseball better than cricket? Is football better than cricket? Blah, blah, blah. But you can take that main project of what you're doing, and it's immersive, and it's got a whole range of different activities involved in it. I feel like sustainability PBLs are really a powerful one, because if you think about it, if this term, all we're going to do is a sustainability PBL, it puts you in a sense of like, what's the bigger picture here? And I feel like in some ways that's what a project can do, because you constantly go, well, what are we doing here? All right, well, we're learning about sustainability. All right, we're going to do a campaign. We're going to learn about, we've got too many kids dropping rubbish outside. It's too dirty. The parents are complaining. We're getting rats, whatever. We got to solve this problem. And what I feel is that when you're doing a PBL well, you lose track of everything. You're just involved. You're like, all right, we're doing about this, and new things will happen. Oh, I saw this happen. Why is this happening? I saw this happen. Oh, I asked my grandparents about sustainability and they said this. What does that mean? And it's like every little comment and every little thing that the kids and the other teachers and parents can put into that PBL, it starts to evolve into, this is now our PBL. So first it's the sustainability PBL. We're going to do it, and we're going to do a campaign, and we're going to save the local turtles, and it's great. But then as it evolves, it's like, look what we've found. We've been able to do planting, to help trees, to help attract wildlife. We're able to do this, we're able to do that. And it's, what I feel is it just gives you so much to do. There's no getting bored in a PBL. I feel like if you're getting bored in a PBL, it's like, I don't know why, because it should be driven. It should be inquiry led. It should be driven from the students. And if they're not interested, well, then find a way to make them interested with AI. It's not that hard. But why not make the learning about them? If they're into motorbikes and you're doing sustainability, then why not connect the two together and make a sustainability motorbike? They design a track that's sustainable, or they design an event that's sustainable, or whatever it might be. Suddenly that kid's like, wow, that's cool. I'm going to do that. I didn't want to do this weird thing about turtles or whatever. Now I want to do something else, and I'm more engaged. And so that kid's engaged. And then the kid's like, why are you so engaged? What are you doing? Oh, this is all the stuff I'm doing. Wow, that's amazing. I want to do that. And bang, 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 bang. Suddenly you have everyone doing these little offshoot projects. I'm interested in Pokemon, so I'm doing sustainability about water things in Pokemon. I'm interested in cricket. All right, you do a sustainable field, da 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 da. And so suddenly you have all these like little things popping up. It's kind of like what's happening in the world of LinkedIn. We're all kind of like doing our own little projects. The overall PBL is AI and education. And we're all kind of we all follow each other a little bit at the start. I don't know what the hell anyone's talking about. This guy's good. Let's look at Stefan. He knows what he's talking about. Let's look at Darren Coxon. All right, they're coming out with good stuff. Cool. I think I know what I'm doing. That person said that. Why are they saying that? All right. Let's investigate that. Now that person's trying to get attention. All right, let's go back to that person again. Like, you know what I mean? And so you're constantly like seeking the knowledge. You're critical thinking, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? But then you're taking on that own project, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a, PBL thing, whether you're doing instructional design with AI, whether you're sustainability in AI, whether you're just trying to work out the weird assessment thing going on with AI. You're all kind of doing your own little passion projects. It's under a big project of AI and education, and we're taking it as ourselves. As adults, we're like, oh, we can do that, da 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 da. But we don't let kids do that. It's like, well, why? If they're interested in something, why not? Like, they might be really good at it. Okay, they might want to design something like a large language model, and they've never done coding before. Maybe it's going to be a lot for them to learn, but let them try. It's like, this is what PBL enables. It enables let them try it. It enables no, you can't do that yet, or any of those kind of things, because it should be open enough that everyone can access that. That's what I love so much about PBL, is that it's different, and it gives you something that you can be personalized with, and then it becomes your own project. So ultimately, my definition of PBL is that, it's something that you do to get stuff done, and it doesn't always work the way. I mean, I don't think any project that any of us have done, Phil, we might act like now, oh yeah, I know what I'm talking about, but how many times when we start it, we're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. What is this 3D printer? What have I done? I've just somehow melted something together, and I'm like, I don't know how I did that, but I put the wrong thing in this way. And, you learn by your mistakes. You learn by your reflection more so. Well, I'm not going to do that next year. I'm going to make sure I read the manual, and those kind of things. And we work on reflection. We work on, sometimes projects aren't working and we got to change direction. You know, a lot of what we do in life is a project, mini projects, fun projects, hobby projects, whatever you want to call. And I feel that I don't know why schools never really got the hang of that, and they've just said this is what we got to do. We're teaching to the tests. We're not teaching to the person, and that's really PBL makes it about the person.
That's fantastic. Like it's again, it's bringing the student, the learner, into the center. It's about them. It's about their growth. So is part of PBL learning? Oh, sorry, for the teacher, the instructor of this PBL, is their role primarily to help the students learn how to ask the questions so that they can have the right questions, so that they can find the answer that will help solve their part of the problem.
Yeah, that's it. They're inquiring. We're listening to the students, aren't we? We're not saying you weren't listening to what I was saying. We're saying, wait a sec, what are you saying? You know, can we take that idea somewhere? Can we go with that? And you're right. You have to teach those things. You have to teach questioning. You have to teach what that means. You know, if I remember the one of the biggest things that I do when I start a year is I say, let's go and sit outside. And that's it. I just bring everyone outside and I don't say anything. And then I sit there for a while and people are waiting and what's going on? And is this guy crazy? Why are you not talking? Why are you not telling us what to do? I'm like, am I meant to? Like, what if I don't tell you what to do? Well, we could run off. We could do all that. I'm like, would you? Like, I mean, you wouldn't say that to a grade 1 class or something, but like an older elementary, I'm going with in my mind. But
Yep.
I often I take people in that situation and be like, well, what am I? Well, you're meant to tell us what to do. And it's really interesting when you just say that to the students. We just sit there and don't say anything, and they're just like, what's going on? What are you going to tell us to do anything? What? Like, all right, well, what would you do now? Well, we just relax and talk. Okay, cool. Let's do that for 5 minutes. All right, see what happens. 5 minutes, I let them talk, do whatever. They kind of sit around and, all right, I'm getting bored now. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And you just notice how much students actually need the teacher when you just kind of just go do what you want. Or, I'm not saying do what you want. I'm just not saying anything. And it's like that to me starts to change something inside a student. And then it's like, all right, we're sitting here together. And I'd often say that to them. Imagine if this entire year is going to be a project. Everything we do, we make our own rules. We're not going to listen to the other classes. Don't worry about what they're doing. We're still going to learn our things, but we're going to make our own rules. What would we do? Oh, well, we need more time outside. All right, why? I don't know. Because it's fun, and okay. And then so you want to have fun. Cool. And then you start to just work out these little things. Well, what else do you want to do? Well, and my favorite event that I used to have with kids, which is funny, that was that first event sitting out in nature. They used to debate for it. We need our nature time this week. We need our nature time. And they will get all their work done to get their 1 hour of nature time, which half the time they're bringing their work out with them and doing it. There's not that much where they're not doing work. But what you're doing is you start to shift that kind of thing. You start to shift the role from you need to listen to me to I trust that you'll work it out. I'm here to help you. But we need to work this out together. I can't bring you outside again and just do nothing, because imagine the teachers, imagine the parents. What do we need to do? Well, we should have this. Suddenly the kids start working out, well, what do I actually want to do outside? Well, I think we should do one lesson. I think we should find a quiet space that you could teach us something that we can do. Then we can go and work in groups because we got all this room to talk. We can be loud. We can be silly. We can yell. Can we yell? Well, yeah, if you're away from people, why not? It's that kind of you're negotiating with them. So you change the voice straight away. You're gone from Phil Alcock, I'm your teacher, listen to me. And I can do that. I can be strict if I want to, but I can be like, well, what if I took this role of being like a coach? I think coach is the greatest word. It's what if I'm your coach? What do you want to do? Well, I want to do this. I get all their goals down. All right, cool. Now we're going to start doing some projects about what you want to do. We'll worry about the work we're going to do next week. But this week, we're going to go all out. It's so interesting how much you find out about the students, the way they like to learn, the way they like to have breaks. They basically work out the way that they work best. They'll debate it. They'll, wait a sec, this guy wants this. Do we do this? Do we do that? Obviously, scheduling makes things very difficult. You can't be like, we're going to do this when you got to go to music class with a strict teacher and whatever else. But it gives something where you just turn it around a little bit, watch what happens. And it's interesting. Most teachers that fail or that don't do well with PBL in the beginning, I'm not saying that they fail all the time, but when they get in there, they just start to like, all right, you got to do this, you got to do that, and then they can't control it when they go, all right, go and work in your projects, and the kids are going crazy because you haven't made a rules. Like, they don't even know what's going on. You've talked a whole new thing to them. You've given them this whole different way of structure. They're really uncomfortable, and most of them are pretty anxious. They're like, I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't know what to do. So make the rules with them, make it about them, let them drive the whole thing. And then even after a week, if they make a silly rule, let them own that rule and go, all right, well, this is a rule that you made. Look how much this has affected all these different things. Maybe we can change that, or we can look at it and things like that. And often, like, my classes and those, like, would just have kids running to them and would have them working on them in recess and lunch and things like that, because you're changing it to go, well, what do you want to learn? Let's make it about you. Oh, well, it's not working. Let's make it maybe we need to work out that little bit of division. If this is too hard, it's no problem. Like, there's not like, you need to do this now. If you don't know that, I'm going to speak to your parent and blah, blah, blah. All that like craziness that teachers do all the time to try and like get stuff in order. What happens when you let go of the reins a little bit? And it's pretty scary. I think, it is pretty scary, but you do have to know how to reset rules of classroom management. You need to learn about student voice. You need to learn about how to teach people questions. You need to learn about problem resolution management and those kind of things. They may not have worked in a group before. They may have sat in the corner. The teacher's like, you're amazing, you're the best, you're this, you're that, you can remember everything, you get the best grades. Put them in a group and they're like, what is going on here? These guys aren't working. This is crazy. I'm going to get a low mark. And then that's where you're the coach. You're like, all right, let's look at this situation. And I'll tell you what, that kid that's getting everything right and the top of the class, they're going to learn the most, because they're going to learn, all right, hang on, I got to work with people in the world. I've got to learn some real skills, and we've got to teach them real skills. They don't know how to work in a group. What does that mean? Work in a group. Be quiet. Like, I hate that. Like, go and do your work. Like, what does do your work mean? Like, tell people what work they have to do. What are you doing standing up? You should be doing your work. Well, clearly they don't know what they're doing if they're standing up. Like, it's just setting those, you've got to be so explicit. If someone hasn't learnt PBL, if they don't know how to ask questions, if they don't know how to work in groups, then that's your focus for the first few weeks. It's not even about worrying about getting any work done with the PBL. You've got to teach them these skills. And then when they can learn how to ask good questions, when they learn what a good question is, when they do that, then it's really powerful. And it's amazing, because I often remember in my sustainability times, I was having a dream about it for some reason the other day. I was thinking, I'm doing Minecraft education. That's why I'm having dreams of Minecraft again, but it reminds me of those times when I started sustainability. And I'd be like, I would have kids coming out to me when I'm like waiting for me to go outside to be like, oh, Mr. Phil, I've got this idea in Minecraft. You said it's got to be sustainable. Is this sustainable? I know it doesn't seem sustainable, but here's reasons why. And and when you get those kind of questions, it's like they're getting it, they're learning it, because they've already started to have that little thought. They started to think, is it sustainable? Can we just say no plastic and then expect that everything's going to be okay? No. So we got to be like asking those bigger questions and questioning and those kind of things. They're not taught. Even it's one of the standards for AITSL standards, isn't it? Questioning? No, maybe the Hattie visible thing. I don't know. It was my goal in some thing, and it's like, do teachers know how to question? You know what I mean? And if we do question things, do we get shut down in meetings, or do we have a chance to question things? It sort of runs down the thing, because we're told not to question. Do your work. This is from the department. This is all the stuff you got to do, and you'll just have to find a way to make it work, as they say. But in the end, we're not taught to question. We're not taught those basic skills of PBL. So we also need to learn it, and we need to teach it to the kids. Sorry, it's a long answer.
Yeah, that's a lot to digest. But from what I I get from that, it's the most productive and engaging times are when the students have ownership, when you allow
Yeah.
them to get to find a personal connection. I mean, I know in with some of the projects that I've done in design, yeah, we have the overarching theme of what we're doing, but as soon as I allow them to think and to think about it and to personalize it, it just it ratchets up to another level. So, and by the sounds of it, that's what's happening, and that's what you're experienced by allowing them to be a little bit bored, because boredom often will then breed creativity, because they're just starting to think. They're just like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And then all of a sudden, bang, they're there. So, but it doesn't sound. It sounds like you've had some you've learned from mistakes, and but you've kept going rather than just go, that's it, hands up in the air, I'm done. So
Yeah.
would you then encourage teachers to, if it doesn't work the first time, to continue on, to have another crack, to try it, to learn from their mistakes, to learn from the kids' mistakes, to then enhance it for the next time?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's such a complex, you know, I got a like a I guess an understanding of project-based learning from when I was in grade 5, and I got to, be selected to be in a gifted whatever. And at the end they just took me out of school and gave me 2 days out of the classroom, and I got free lunch. I remember that part. And and got to work on a cool project. And for me, it was like that experience as a student was amazing. And you talk to most people, and they'll talk about what was your favorite thing in school, and they, this project we did about this, or we went to here, or we did this thing about convicts, and everyone dressed up, or like, it's amazing how many projects just pop out of that discussion. I feel that, yeah, like, there's so much as a teacher you think that you can just work it out, and I'm seeing it with AI. It's kind of like, don't worry, you guys have got it, you'll be fine, everything will be fine, don't worry, just relax, have your coffee, go and have your, it's that kind of thing. And it's like, no, you got to get a little bit uncomfortable, and you got to feel a little bit of failure. You may be used to you've worked out your system, the kids do their work, you've got your system for complaints, your system for this, your systems galore. But you go and run a project, and you got kids going crazy, you've got problems with kids that you never had problems with, you've got a whole range of things going on. And there is a lot of learning involved. It's not easy. I'm staying away from doing webinars now of like how to do project learning, because I think, it's not just a one discussion, here's the instructions, go and do it now. It's, you got to get out and do it, and you got to ask questions to people that have had experience, that maybe, all right, this isn't working, what do I do? Because everyone has different problems, everyone has different challenges. There's common kind of challenges of like, people are maybe, I don't know what this means to listen to a student. My classroom's locked down, I'm not going to start students talking for no reason. There's a lot of that kind of thing. There's a lot of challenges with collaboration. There's a lot of challenges with, I don't know who did the work, because this guy's doing all this work and everyone else is just sitting there bored out of their brain, and who do I give the mark to? And there's a lot of like all these different things. But I feel that the challenges that you have, and the more you just jump in and do it, I like Dan Jones' story of, he was burnt out, he was ready to leave, that was it. And I get it. I was very similar. And I was just like, I don't think this thing's for me. I don't want to do this teaching. I've got too many like stuff that I should be doing. And, I felt really like I didn't know what I was doing. And then I stumbled upon project-based learning. And when that change happened, and just like it did with Dan, it's so transformative, because you stop this kind of like, this, like, I don't know what's going on, what do I do to control these crazy kids, and what's happening to kids these days, and whatever. And then you suddenly just go, wait a second, maybe I could be the problem here. Maybe I've got to sort of step away a little bit from my own ego and think, that maybe I can't control these kids. Maybe I should to ask them about it. It's amazing just sitting down with a group of kids, that you say to them, so here's some rules I came up with, but you guys can change any of them because I don't really know. I'm just a teacher. Like, you get to change them. The kids will be like, I get to change the rules? What? But that's the teacher's job. And it's like, is it the teacher's job? Look around you. How many people are here? I'm one person. My voice is sore. I can't even yell. I'm not a yelling person. So if I have to yell, I feel bad. It's like, I want to be calm. And you guys talk so loud. Are you affecting me? I mean, I can block it out a little bit now. I'm getting used to it. But what about the rest of the kids? Look around. And they're like, and it's like, that's what it's kind of about. Like, it's walking away from us, and we gotta, unfortunately, it's a bit of like, you're not going to get it right the first time. I don't know any person in project learning world and experts and anything that haven't had baptism by fire, excuse the term, but really just like deep in, learning some things. And it's pretty rough. It is a little bit like that first year of teaching. You're just kind of scrambling and going, what have I done? What did I tell them this for? Why did I say yes to this? Like, you're just going crazy, and you got kids that are just not even doing work. And like, I had that problem. I was just like, yeah, you go and do that project about art. Yeah, go and do. And then I was like, wait, what's anyone done? They've got art. They've got this. I'm like, this is a mess. Like, who's even learned about sustainability? Me. All right, cool. Can you teach everyone so we can like walk away? You've done great pictures. You've designed some sports game that's nothing to do with sustainability. Like, you learn a lot, but I feel like you've got good guidance out there. And there is Dan Jones books. I'm gonna like promote it. He's done a great job. He's in the classroom, and it's basically his lessons. He's taught about all the things in his lessons. You got Jennifer Klein, who's got the landscape model of learning book. You've got, I mean, I should know all the books off my head, but I don't. But I mean, just pick up a book. Go to like Kyle Wagner or Tony Wagner, or like go to Susie Boss and find out what they're talking about, and study it a little bit, and watch some YouTube and things. But in the end, you are going to find it difficult because you're not used to it, and you got to make it your own. I think ultimately you don't have to have it like Phil Alcock's classroom where he's like, yeah, it's free, it's wild, it's this, it's that. It's kind of not. It's pretty calm most, like 99% of the time. But it's calm because I set those expectations, and I've learnt that lesson. You got to set those expectations, but how do you know the expectations that you set if you haven't done it? So you kind of just have to run little projects, just do it. Just say to the kids, let's all do a passion project. If we finish our work, you can spend the last 10 minutes working on your passion project. Let's spend a lesson and just work out and see what happens with that passion project, and then start to see and go, all right, maybe I need to do this, I need to do that. Maybe I told everyone they could do what they want. I've got kids playing Minecraft. I've got kids battling on some random game on the computer. Maybe telling them what they want isn't the right thing, but finding out how they can engage with their learning or one of their goals through a project, that's huge. It's those little lessons that you learn. And I feel that there's a lot about PBL, but there's also not a lot about practical things. And that's where I think, again, Dan Jones' book is a great little way of just starting to just connect the dots and doing it as like a little, your own passion project, just like us with AI. We're working it out. We're having fun. Some days are harder than others. Some things aren't working in AI, but I feel like ultimately we're doing great things, and we're connecting with great people and those things. And maybe that's the PBL journey. Find a few people, do it together, do it with a few other people. Let's do it together. Let's work out this PBL together. I know yourself have got in contact with me. I know that Alex Gray's got in contact. I've had lots of different people on LinkedIn say, oh, Phil, what about this for a project? Or what about, I'm here. Like, I'm always happy to answer questions. Even for a video call, if I've spoke with leaders who have ran multiple school PBLs and things, and they just got in contact and told me what's going on. And especially if it's sustainability, I'm going to be jumping on that call straight away. And that's what it was. And like, in so many people, they just get in contact, hey, ask a question and then work it out, but I think the journey's got to be your own. The journey's got to be really about the student, and then walk away and kind of like reassess, well, what's the student doing in this situation? And where can I help that student, and that changes the way you look at education, I believe, because as soon as you start to see that student and go, all right, that student with dyslexia, that we always having the parent meetings and things like that. What if they can present this project that's not a written component? What if they can have it text to speech, or what if they can speak it, or what if they can teach other people about it? Is that going to change things? And that's where to me, that's where the gold is, when you start to really twist it around and think about what that student experience is, which I'm sure in your classes, Phillip, we've talked about it before, how I'm sure in our classes, we never really have those major behavioral problems because we work out how to engage those students. And when you put that student first and just give them the time, sit down with them, talk to them, what's going on? Can we make this project more interesting? What do you want to do? And then can we work with AI and things like that? Now you've got AI. It's like, well, use it. If that kid is getting bored with a project, or if things aren't working, maybe you can then go back to AI, or you can go to a range of different people and try and get back on track. But ultimately, if the student is engaged, I feel like they're going to learn. So if that's a simple focus, just really just think about that student, not so much yourself, and you're going to be more objective, and you're not going to be so lost in like, what am I doing? I don't know how to do this. I'm not one of those people. It's like, it's not about you. It's about the kids. We'll just work out their situation, get their environment right, get everything sorted, set the expectations, have it clear for them, make it, if they're not understanding something, don't get angry at them. Go, well, maybe we need to understand this together. What does questioning mean? What does inquiry mean? What does work by yourself mean? What does work in a team mean? These are great things to learn about when it's not working, and some of the best times I've had is where things are complete chaos. And it's like, no, not one team is getting along, and they're fighting everywhere. And it's like, all right, that's it. We're going out in nature, and that's it. We're sitting around in a circle, and I'll sit in the circle. That's always my thing. I'm like, I'm sitting down. I'm part of it. Let's just work this out together. We're not leaving from outside until we work out what's going on with these groups. And those situations, I know for sure, like, they are life-changing for kids, because they start to go, wait, so maybe if we talk to everyone before we do the group, we might actually have a better outcome. Maybe if we pair people together instead of trying everyone to do the same thing at once, and these huge, great little solutions come out that the students make themselves, then they've kind of taken complete control over what's happening, and they're taking responsibility. And then, don't be afraid to just put it back onto the students and go, this isn't working. I don't know that much about project learning. How can we make this better? And then they'll come up with the solutions. Most of the things that I talk about, as much as I like to think I'm pretty intelligent and I work a lot and I never sleep and whatever else, I think ultimately I've just learned all this from students, and I'm just kind of just selling. Every time I talk to a young person or a student, I learn something more, and I'm just like, I'm selling what they want, like that's worked. And all of my things that I post are driven by what I've heard from students and what's worked really well for them. And I know for a fact, like, that difference of a really good PBL classroom, traditional kind of those weird classrooms where the kids have to be quiet and they're not let outside if they don't finish their work and all this random stuff that goes on. Like, my kids are all happy, they're really happy, and their parents are hugging me at the end and whatever, because they enjoy school. I mean, what are we doing as teachers if we're not allowing kids to just enjoy that experience of learning? And that's got to be the focus, to step away from us. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. PBL is complex. Make some adjustments in the way that you see learning, and it'll be life changing for you, because it's like, this is actually a lot better. And the kids will see you, like, respect you. And I can tell that, and I'm sure in your classes as well, Phil, that kids respect you because you listen to them. It's like, if they're not getting along in other classes and they go to your class and suddenly they're fine, it's not because they're on the tools. It's because you've found something that's keeping them busy and active and happy, and you've worked out how to set boundaries, and you're saying, you could have that same kid in your classroom, and cause absolute chaos, especially with tools,
Yeah.
especially with different things. But you're just like, bang, this is your rules, or you're out, or whatever it might be. You've given them that really high expectation of behavior, that high expectation of learning, and they're just like, thank you. Like, what teacher's done that to me? But you kind of have to, in a sense, like, all right, I've got these tools and things,
You've got
but
to
the
give them
same way,
respect.
you've got to give them respect. Yeah. And that's kind of like, a lot of people's problems that I hear are more themselves, they're not talking about the kids. They're not saying, oh, oh, all the kids don't learn anything. Like, what do you mean by that? And you find out, well, I didn't instruct them to learn something, like in the end, that's it. It's like, it's not the kids' fault at all. It's your fault. You're the teacher, and you gotta change it. Sometimes it's a kid's fault. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's
Oh
some
yeah,
crazy situations, but you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Like, if I think overall, it's like, take that responsibility and work it out, and then work it out with the kids, and often they'll help solve those big challenges of what's going on and what's not working in PBL.
Yeah, and that I think is the key thing, is to shift the focus from the teacher. Yes, we're there for a role, and that's, it's important, because an adult in the room is needed with 20 plus kids there, because Lord of the Flies. Um,
Yep.
but if but it sounds that as long as our primary focus is the students, not us, not making ourselves look better, and allowing and going, well, you know what, we make mistakes, we've got to allow them to make mistakes. So, but let's help them learn from their mistakes, and bring them into the process. And by
Yeah.
the sounds of it, you've had a huge amount of success by bringing them into the process of their learning.
Yeah, and they'll listen a lot as well, Phil. Like, I'm sure you do this and be like, look, this class here tried this and this is what happened. And they love the stories of like things that didn't work before. It's like, wow. And I love saying that to the kids. I'm like, can you believe these guys had a group and they just went off and worked on their own? Imagine what their work was like at the end. Like, what? Well, they all went and did crazy things, and they were fighting that no one was doing the same thing. But everything changed when they started having a meeting at the start. And you say that to the kids, and they'll be like, well, the kids had problems and they fixed it, so I'll take that on. So it's also really powerful when you're listening and observing so much with them, that then you can take that to the next group and be like, well, that group's not going that well either, but you know what they did? Or that happened with this group, or I've seen this happen before. And you're like getting in that pulse of the student, and it empowers them. They kind of go, like, there's something that they can bring to the table now. They're like, I've got an idea, Mr. Phil, for this. I've had people come to me and say, I want to run a class. I want to run my own PBL for the class. And I'm just like, that's like when it's evolved so much, you're like, all right, I'm not wanted anymore. I'll just sit outside. But in the end, I'll have people running that class better than me. And I'll be like sitting there going, should have done that, should have done that. You know what I mean? Like, they'll just be like, all
Yeah,
right, that person, you do that. And put your hand up like this. Not like that, like this. If you got a question, that means that you're being demanding. This means it. And I'm just sitting there going, whoa, like, these kids have got it all worked out, and then they run the class, and it's amazing what they can do, and they start running PBLs for other kids, and it gets really interesting when it when it goes crazy. But it's just worthwhile. It's like, it's really fun to just listen to them and find out all the cool stuff that they want to do and want to know, and what they've been learning about on whatever social media or YouTube or TikTok or Minecraft or Roblox or whatever's going on. They've always got these really interesting things, and yeah, that's where when you shift it and listen to them, it becomes really powerful, and it's enlightening for a teacher. I think you get excited because you're like, all right, I want to help this kid do that. I want to help this kid do that, instead of going, all right, I'm teaching the same thing again. I'll switch off and go and watch Netflix and whatever, and I'll be annoyed that I've got to go to work the next day. It's like you're actually being actively involved in their learning, going, I stayed up last night and found you a good video, like, and you're not even listening. Like, it's kind of funny. It's like, okay, sorry, Mr. Phil, like, yeah, you probably did stay up, and it's like, I wanted to watch Netflix and I didn't, because I wanted to find you a good project because you're really interested in rockets. And it's like, it's really funny. You can, it's that rapport, and the kids will be like, all right, fine, I'll do it. But imagine like trying to tell them, this is what you're doing today, you have to do it like this. I'll be
yeah,
like, no thanks. It's
yeah,
it's building
yeah,
that rapport,
absolutely.
and being on their level. It's a great vibe. And I feel that the more we can do that as teachers, whatever we're going to be called in the future, coaches or instructors, who
Yeah,
knows. But
yeah. There's,
um
there's a few names coming
it's
out, isn't there?
changing a little. Yeah, that's it. Who
I
knows?
mean,
I'm sure they'll change
look.
it, and people will go crazy anyway and be like, I'm not being called that, I'm a teacher. But yeah.
Oh yeah, Yeah, I mean, education. Look, there's some amazing things that we have in our current education system that definitely need to stay, but there's certainly a lot of stuff that needs some changing and revamping, and some of it needs to be thrown away, but some of it just needs to be tweaked to suit where society's heading. So, and speaking of tweaking and changing the way education is working these days, you're a an AI ed developer. What
Yep.
does that mean? That
Means that
sounds
I'm
like something that not so much teaching, but helping teachers teach.
Yep. It's pretty much like the Matrix. So if you imagine, I just have all these like things going on around me. Yeah, it's like it's an interesting level of prompt development. So I don't really know what the word is, but I just called it an AIX ed developer. Um,
Yep.
it's looking at what teachers want and building something for them, you know. And for example, Phil Murdoch gets in contact with Phil Alcock and says, you know what? It's taken me forever to write these project-based learning units. It takes me ages. I'm doing like going crazy. I've got to write 10. Can you find a way to make it easier? And Phil Alcock says, sure, Phil Murdoch. I'm just going to go and do a few things, and I create a prompt or a chain of prompts, and I can give you that, or I can put it into a fancy box that you can put in your own subjects and things like that, and you press a button and the AI will do it. But it's essentially working, you prompt AI and you can get better results with certain strategies. They've come up with a million prompt guide books. I don't really know. I've tried all of them. I don't think any of them really tell you about it. But after enough time, you can start to work things out. And the idea of that is to start to think of, you know, as a teacher, we do all of these jobs. And wouldn't it be great if? And then that's kind of the developer side is like, well, wouldn't it be great if there was a tool that did this? And we can be like creative and crazy. Go to Facebook, and the anonymous questions on the ChatGPT groups are amazing. And the comments are even more amazing. Um, but basically, people say, I want an AI, like it's just like, can anyone just show me an AI that just marks all of my work, grades all the kids, gives them all behavioral plans, blah, 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 blah. In some ways, it's like what you're doing is you're kind of like listening and going, all right, what do we need? So, for example, if you go to ChatGPT now and say, make me a project-based learning unit about this, it's going to come up. It's probably going to give you how to make a diorama or some old school version of project-based learning. And then you're going to go, that's rubbish. What's this guy talking about? Phil Alcock, you're crazy. But what happens if you then go to ChatGPT and say, all right, here's a curriculum standard. What does it mean? Okay, it means that. Okay, put that into 5 learning goals. All right, there's my 5 learning goals. Give me a driving question. All right, cool. So now I've got this really interesting information in front of me. I haven't just said, give me something. I've said, give me the reasoning or explain something. I can then go and edit what I've got and go, all right, that looks about right. Cool. Now I'm going to take that information and I'm going to do something more with it. And I'm going to turn that into something else. I might do an introduction about something. I might do some extra activities. I know when I run a project, I like to have narratives. I like to have my narratives. Now I'm writing one about the Zorbonians that are asking people on Earth for help with their problems in space. And for me, it's like I can be creative with it. I can have fun with it. But what I'm starting to do is I'm looking at my entire process of project learning. There's multiple processes going on. I'd love to press a button and have everything done for me, but I know that there's a certain way that I have to work with AI. I put this information in, it comes out with this information. If I put this information in, and so on. So you start to work out patterns. You start to work out ways that you can work with it. For example, a homework generator. You say, create me a homework worksheet about this, and it'll come up with something not very good. But if you have that already programmed in the background, and then all you need to do is put in the subject and the challenge that the kid's having, it'll come up with a worksheet already. It'll be on a nice interface. You can go and copy it, put it on Google Docs or edit it, whatever you want to do. You can change things. What you're trying to do is you're trying to move away from saying, all right, for you to learn how to use ChatGPT and learn how to do these prompts is going to take you. I mean, I've been doing it. I did the hours, probably over 2,000 hours or something I've done. So how would I be able to teach a teacher and say, you can learn this, just put 200 hours into it and you'll have an idea. And it's like, whoa, 200 hours is a lot to put on a teacher. But if I have already made kind of developing thing there, they have them with Magic School and a few different websites, then, but if I have a high level one, it's been developed, it's been tested, it's got through all these different levels of back and forth until you've got something that's really good quality, then that helps the teacher a lot more. So yes, I can offer this as a program to people, an application, maybe they pay $10 a month, whatever it's going to be, and then that helps them do their job, and then I can spend more time in teaching them some of the practical things about PBL, and they can just go onto this website, put in these details, it'll come up with a project with what you want to do. That's your project. It's done. You don't need, maybe you can edit a few things, make sure that, the data is accurate, those kind of things. And then you can then use that. So the way I'm kind of feeling like I'm starting to be this intermediary to kind of go, well, I'm a teacher. I know that. I know this. I know all my challenges that I had with project learning. I know what burnt me out from being a teacher. It was this, 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 this. Well, now I'm creating scripts or prompts or whatever you want to call it that make it life a lot easier. And then I'm putting it into a system, a website. Most people know it as just a website. You type in a thing, you join up, you have access, and you get access to all these really cool tools. I feel like you're really just trying to make it a little bit easier for people to use AI. I mean, AI has got a whole lot of garbage on there. I was listening to the Darren Coxon one about how he was saying 80-20 and everyone's focusing on the 80, not the 20 of gold. Well, what about the gold? I'm getting gold from my outcomes. I'm not having this challenge with AI that everyone seems to be having. It's garbage, it's this, it's that, whatever. Well, now I'm starting to use that, what I've learned as someone as experimenting with it and as a teacher, and kind of bringing those two worlds together to learn about prompting, to learn about data tables, to slowly start to learn about how it all works. So eventually I can have my own Phil's Magic School, and then I can know that's AIX PBL or whatever I want to call it. And I know I can be like, cool, let's use our platform together. This is what we're going to do. It's going to come out with all these really cool things. And it stops that need for like, I need to teach you for 100 hours so then you can create your own prompts. Well, I started going down that avenue, Phil, and I started working out how am I going to teach teachers what I know? And it's a lot of work. It's like, it's 100 hours, 200 hours, 300 hours. Like, can I say to a school, I want to teach your teachers for 300 hours? They're going to look at me and go, you're crazy, Phil. But if I can then go, all right, maybe I don't need to teach them all this prompt. They don't need to know all that stuff. They're amazing teachers. They know so many things. Why do I need to teach them prompting and put them in this really uncomfortable situation for 300 hours that I love? I love learning about all that stuff. And I'm not in a school, so I can be a little bit more perceptive and manage those challenges. Well, now I'm kind of like, I want to see myself as someone who's bridging that gap a little and making things like, it's not just rubbish. Let's start to see it and find the quality in AI. And, with Kaiba, it's called Kaiba. It's going to be, I think it's already out now, but it's officially going to be released in July. I'm working on some great things there, and I know that if a teacher uses that, they're going to love it. It's like, this is coming up with gold. You can put in this. I've made like homework activities that I can compare baseball and cricket, and I've just tested all these random things and it comes up with gold. And so now I'm seeing myself as, all right, now I've got this knowledge. I might not know all the programming world just yet. I'm on that road to learning what I need to know, I guess. But ultimately, I'm trying to then think, all right, just like Ryan Tenenbaum, I don't know how to say his last name.
Yep.
How he does, is creating something that teachers can then access and not be overwhelmed. And then and then be able to use AI well, whether they're paying for it or not. People are always going to say whatever, because as soon as it gets to edtech and you're making money, you're this person. If you're an educator, you're this person. Like, it's this strange kind of world. But it's like, what I see it as, even the most powerful thing, Phil, is that teachers can actually start to learn all this stuff that I'm learning and become AI developers themselves. And maybe there's other worlds that I don't know about, so much. I'm focusing on project learning. I'm focusing on really like deconstructing curriculum codes and portfolios and those kind of things. This is the power of what educators can do now, is start to learn about AI, what it can do, and then, potentially you can create $1 million platform. And really, like, eventually I see, and this might be controversial, and I'm sorry for it, but I eventually see that schools and institutions are going to get staff to test their own AI programs that they're going to go and sell somewhere else. So a lot of ways, there's going to be a lot of exploitation going on about testing out AI tools and that institutions and places are going to do. Why not start to just branch out your own just a little on the side, create your own whatever, your profile, your name, your company, consultancy, podcast, whatever you want to do, get away and start to see that life can be a lot more, like, as a teacher, you're really valuable. We have this way of like taking knowledge and dissecting it, and we have all these great skills. And, in the end, teachers were, you get paid to do your job, and that's it. You go home, and some people say we get paid a lot, and some people say we get paid not enough. And most teachers in the world don't get paid enough. And really, with AI, you can start to get value. You start to learn all these things. And essentially, Phil, like, I can start, Phil Alcock, a guy 1 year ago in a year 5 classroom earning 30,000 US a year or whatever it was. Suddenly there's a potential that I can actually make a career and a life and work my own hours and be my own boss and be as creative as I want and not get shut down, and potentially create my own AI tool or whatever, that becomes part of my consultancy and part of what I do. And then I've got value. There's something within inside of me that I'm working really hard for, and I'm spending a lot of hours learning about all the prompts and all the different systems and all that stuff. But now I'm starting to get a bit of value, and it's amazing. People can give me an idea and I can go and get them a better output. Then you start to go, there's value in that. And as teachers, unfortunately, we're not seen as valuable people, even though we are. We're not. And with what I'm doing with this development side, we're starting to just go, well, what's your pain points as a teacher? And maybe can I help in some way? And then maybe I'm going to get paid $10 a month or whatever it's going to be. But ultimately, I'm bringing a value. I'm starting to just use this knowledge that I have of project-based learning and then work out a way that, I've got scripts now, Phil, that I can now do Minecraft education, any world that you want, and I can just go and get it happening. I mean, to me, this is great because it's going to give so much to teachers. Instead of, let's not reinvent the wheel. If we've got great tools and we've got great things, I mean, that's what great tech is. It saves time. It makes you better. And if I can enable you, if I give you AIX PBL access and you can type in those details, Phil, and then you get this really comprehensive, whatever you want, teacher guide or design thinking or whatever it might be that might help you, then it puts me in a different zone than just being a teacher. It's an important job, but it allows me to be valuable. And I feel that if you start thinking of yourself as a developer, not just an educator, entrepreneur is a good word, but really you're developing something great for teachers, and you may or may not get paid money. I mean, I think most developers, when they're developing, they don't know what the outcome's going to be. They're developing it. Like, they don't know. They're making a video game. They're doing this. They're doing that. Some video games are successful. Some aren't. It's all part of what it is. But you can start to, that knowledge that you have is valuable. And I'm seeing it with a lot of people. They're putting prompt guide books. You pay a certain donation and things like that. You get 1,000 people paying $10 for that little book that you made. You've suddenly got yourself $10,000. You know what I mean? And that's only the beginning. That's why you have such a big interest of ed tech and those worlds, especially now. It's a bit deafening and exhausting, but at the same time, it really shows that there's some value in this. And and as educators, I'm the one that all these people are going to feel. What do I do? They're all like super ed tech people, and they're all saying to me, "What do I do?" And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to tell you all that information. Maybe I'm going to develop that myself, and maybe I'm going to sell
Yeah.
that. Because
Yeah, 'cause-
I like talking to people, but I don't want to give you all my knowledge. And teachers have a lot of good knowledge, and we can actually help. The whole world needs teaching about AI, Phil. Business, hospitality, everywhere. So just think about that value of an educator. To me, has gone up to be a lot, and we shouldn't discount it. And me, I'm starting to fly in this world, and I really just want to be someone to go, you know what, teachers are valuable. We are, and we should be treated a bit more seriously than what we're treated around the world. And no wonder why everyone's leaving in droves. We're not respected, number one, but number two, there's a lot more money in other things. And you start to
oh
do
yeah.
the maths and go, you mean I can create an online course that's going to make more money than I could make in 3 years by just doing X, Y, and Z? It's kind of like you feel like cheating a little because we're so used to, no, you don't get paid, you get shut down, you're doing this, you're doing that. But maybe we get money as a consultant, and that's one world. But let's start to get educators as developers and see where that's going to take educators.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that more and more that there's, and I think some of these big ed tech companies are probably, they probably won't admit it, but they might be starting to get a little worried because teachers like yourself, like Andrew Wright, Paul Matthews, there's Amanda Bickerstaff, Darren Coxon,
Yeah.
Nick Jackson, just to name a few there, are teachers who are doing stuff because they know what teachers need.
Yeah.
And that's where the impact is coming in. It's giving the teachers back the time so that they can get back to teaching, to get back to
Yep.
the thing that they actually want to do. So, mate, it sounds amazing what you're doing, and I hope you do get some sleep.
I'm starting to,
But
Phil. It's taken a year.
mate, it sounds like everything you're doing is for the betterment of education and especially for students and teachers. So, if no one has said it before, I'm going to say it. So, thank you for all the work you're doing and that you continue to do. And I
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing how all this continues to develop and to just to morph into something that's probably going to be truly, truly amazing and impactful even more across the globe. So, mate, thanks for all the hard work you do.
Thank
Now
you.
we've got into mate, it's the least I could do. So now we've got into some pretty deep things, and we've got into some. Your passion has just shone through. So thank you for being so open and honest with that. A couple of little things just to finish off, a little bit of fun. Um, just a couple of questions. So, what's your favourite drink?
What's my favorite drink? Are we talking alcoholic or not alcoholic? No.
Mate, I just got favourite drink.
You know what? My brain just went to black IPA. I miss it in Australia. It's a dark, hoppier, heavier India Pale Ale, and I'm going to say that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'd
I
be
miss
hard
it.
pressed to find it in Mexico, I dare say.
Yep.
Um, now, we've talked a lot about AI and things like that, and you've mentioned ChatGPT quite a bit. But is that your favourite platform? Is that your favourite large language model, or do you have an app or anything that's your go to?
Kaiba, no. um, it's the best. I just changed my life instantly. Now I want to go back to teaching. Well, I do. I don't know. I'm going to say Gemini. I'm just, I could never imagine myself saying that, but I'm going to say Gemini. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just excited where it's going. I love what it's coming out with. It's my best friend. If I got rid of all but one, it would be, I thought about it the other day, would be Gemini Advanced, not the
Oh,
normal one. Yep.
okay. Okay. Now you visited a fair few countries over your time. What's one that you probably wouldn't go back to?
Oh, that's a hard question. I would go back everywhere where I've been, but if there was a place I wouldn't go back to, Monterrey in Mexico, I'm sorry, that place is a very interesting place, and one of their quotes is that they enjoy destroying a foreigner or something like that. They have this crazy kind of weird thing. So it's like, I know I got really good friends there. It's not everyone in Monterey, but it's a very cold place, and um, I'd love to visit again, but it's one that maybe I'll never go back to the rest of my life. Unless the wrestling's back on, then I might make a trip. Or the Pink Floyd show. But now I've got Mexico City where that happens, so, sorry,
Oh,
Monterey.
that's all right.
But it's a very interesting place. I met my wife there. It's the best place in the world, but at the same time, it wasn't our place. We're very colorful characters, and there's not a lot of color. It's very black. Everyone has the same, like, this kind of haircut. It's a place to experience, that's for sure. It's to me, if there was a non-Australian place, it would be Monterey. It was very far away from just, hey, you're from somewhere else, come and we'll help you, and that's kind of, I feel like, the ultimate Australian culture. It's kind of the opposite. So sorry,
Yeah.
Monterey, you got the list. I'm not going back. Bye. And they'll cry.
Now, being the being the Tattooed Teacher podcast, I have to ask this question: do you have any tattoos?
Not yet. I've
Not yet.
I've got a lot of ideas for tattoos, but I don't know, because I've been a teacher. I don't know, been wanting to teach in Asia was probably my thing. But yes, I'm gonna get a hurricane along here to remember my hurricane experience. So gonna get that done. You'll be the first
Sounds
person
like.
I show, Phil Murdoch. I will definitely make sure.
Thank you very much.
You're
And
welcome.
last but certainly not least, where is the best place to go for people to find more about you or AI XPBL?
The world of LinkedIn. Come and join us. I'd like to think I'd want to. I'm trying to, like, get a presence somewhere else. My wife's trying to get me into making TikTok videos, so stay tuned. I could be on a TikTok pretty soon and start that world. But yeah, LinkedIn is definitely the best place. I do my newsletter there. I'm starting some Substacks and things, but I'd like to think I want to keep it. I feel like LinkedIn's become my home now. I know that people are on there that have helped me get to what I'm doing now, and I feel that, yeah, LinkedIn's a great community. Not everyone you're going to get along with. Some people are controversial, some people are a bit intense, and whatever else. Some people are interesting, but I think most people are pretty amazing who you meet. You never know where it's going to lead you. So yeah, you can find me, but get on there yourself and start posting. I love it when people start. I don't know about you, Phil, but if someone else new jumps on and they're like, "Hey, I saw you on a podcast," or I'm on here and posting, I love it. I love it even more. So get on and start interacting with any of us, and I'm sure we'll be happy to welcome you into the LinkedIn family. But it seems like it's a great spot. There's a few Slacks and all sorts of other things going on. I don't know what's going on with all that, but I feel like LinkedIn's a great spot. You can save articles, you can find out what your friends are doing, and I think there's some great leaders on there. So please follow me on LinkedIn. If you don't want to go on LinkedIn, then I guess, I don't know. Follow me. Wait till I pop up on TikTok or something. I don't really know, but that's about it. I've got AI teachers on X, Twitter, and I've got AI teachers on Facebook that I should be posting more, but I just don't. So LinkedIn is my long answer for this question. Thank you.
No worries. I'll throw your profile in the show notes so people can click on that and follow there. So
Thanks.
Phil Alcock, mate, thank you for your time. Thank you for your inspiration, and thank you for all you're doing in the world of education. So appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. I think it's
Evening,
morning
you got
here. I
it?
think
Yep.
it's the evening over there. So thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. And to all my listeners, thank you very much, and have a great day.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to the Tattooed Teacher podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with your network. Special thanks to DJ Fruit Salad for the music. You can find more of his work on Instagram at DJ Fruit Salad Official. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Stay cool, be blessed.